Hey everyone, this is Duke from Deebz Hub, and I'm very excited to bring to all of you my first video about the Dragon Ball Super card game. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am or have never heard of this channel before, this channel was started as a place for Panini's Dragon Ball Z trading card game, specifically its fan expansion, Fan Z. But I've also been playing the Dragon Ball Super game since its release, and a lot of my Fan Z local is also playing Super, and I was kind of thinking about covering both games on this channel, and when I pitched the ideas to other people and in another video, the reception's been really positive and people want me to cover this game too. So here we are. I'm ready to cover this game too, and my first video is going to be this mono green Broly deck list that I've been messing around with since the game dropped. I hope you enjoy the deck list, and without any other delays, let's get into it. So the first thing we got to talk about in our green Broly deck list is Broly leader himself. On his front, 10,000 power like every other leader. The awakening threshold is also the same at 4 life or less. The two most unique attributes of Broly, both in front and in back, are his permanent and his auto. The permanent is this card cannot attack battle cards, and while technically this is a limitation on Broly leader, in practicality it serves as a reminder to you in the deck building process that you're not going to really care about battle cards with your leader due to Green's board destruction and Broly's awakened side himself. The auto, when this card attacks, both players choose one card from their hand and place it in the drop area. Now, in a metagame where blue, specifically blue Vegeta, and yellow, specifically yellow Golden Frieza, are everywhere gaining hand advantage, this seems like a huge negative again on text. However, with Brolys Ring will protect your hand from the negative aspect of this auto, so you're just going to be able to drop cards from their hand, and any Broly deck, either mono, dual, whatever color combination, you should have Ring either turn 1 or turn 2, so again, this is really not a big deal either. Kakarot! The legendary Super Saiyan has awakened with 15,000 power. The permanent from the front side remains, and the auto is now amped up. When this card attacks, draw one card, then both players choose one card from their hand and one card from their battle area, and place those cards in the drop area. When this card attacks, draw one card is standard for all awakened leaders. Both players choose one card and drop them. It's just like the front. If you have Brolys Ring, you can negate this negative effect on yourself. But the battle area drop is unique to this backside and one of the most double-edged sword abilities in the entire game. If you only have Brolys Ring in your battle area, you will be forced to drop it, and that's absolutely the worst thing in the world. But if you have a battle card like Overflowing Bio Warrior Army, it becomes one of the best abilities in the world, because when we get to Bio Warrior, I'll explain it, it essentially gives Bio Warrior dual attack, which is really nice. And it goes without saying, the ability to just drop a battle card from your opponent's battle area without having to KO it is incredibly valuable, because you don't have to worry about comboing, you don't have to worry about being a higher power level, and it gets around cards like Iron Wall Vegeta that can't be KO'd. He can still be dropped by Broly's ability, so it's incredibly useful and clutch, especially late game. So now we can get into the nitty-gritty of the deck list, the 50-card deck itself. And I thought the best way to go over the deck would be to divide the 50 cards into 3 sections. The first section is the Broly leader specific cards. These are cards that you would only run in mono green if your leader is Broly out of necessity or their effects. The second subsection is the Broly Evolve core, and what I mean by that is the one-drop Broly Dawn of the Rampage has several evolutions that you can play on top of it, and all these evolutions have synergy with the Broly leader and provide a valuable asset to your game plan. And the third section is just the green cards. These are where your staples are and your tech choices that are available in the color itself. So the first card in this deck list from the Broly specific cards is 4 copies of Broly's Ring. I run 4 copies of this card because it's absolutely essential for any Broly leader to get this card out as fast as possible, and having multiple copies of this card enables more reliable mulligans before the game starts, and more reliable draws turn 1 and turn 2, and more reliable targets for your Paragus tutor, which we'll get to him in a minute. Getting multiples isn't really that bad when you draw them like in your charge phase, because you can just charge it for energy. It's an easy charge. Not being able to come with it kind of sucks, but having 4 copies just as a security measure seems worth it, in my opinion. And of course, just in case we don't get Brolys Ring, I do run 4 copies of Paragus controller monsters. 4 copies again might seem kind of high for what is essentially a dedicated ring tutor, but I'd rather have the tools to get ring than never get ring at all. And even if you do have ring, you can just charge them for energy or keep them in your hand for a 5,000 combo. And lastly, in this section, I run 4 copies of Overflowing Bio Warrior Army. He's a 2-drop, 15,000 power. Is great because you can still push damage mid to late game after your leader awakens, because 15,000 power is like the de facto power for an awakened leader. But the real reason this card is in this section and in this deck is for that auto. Whenever he gets dropped, either from KO or from a card effect like Awakened Broly, you can drop a card from your hand to play him again. And when you play him from the drop area in this way, you don't pay costs and he comes back in active mode. Now, why is this awesome? Because you can attack with Bio Warrior, then attack with Awakened Broly, and choose to drop the Bio Warrior, then elect to use the auto to drop a card, bring him back, and then attack with Bio Warrior Army again. This essentially gives Bio Warrior Army dual attack, and dual attack is not present in green at the time of this recording, so this is a really neat strategy to push multiple attacks on your turn when you're awakened. Now let's get into the second section with the Broly Evolve core. And the base of this core is 4 copies of Broly Dawn of the Rampage. He's a 1-drop for 5,000 power. You're not going to attack with this Broly because it doesn't have any skills and the power is really low. When you throw this down, you're going to want to throw it down early game after you get Ring, so you can look at the top 7 cards of your deck and add a green Broly to your hand. The green Broly in your hand is going to be for hand advantage and for potential evolution / playing later. Next in the Broly Evolve core is the 4-cost Broly the Unstoppable Horror. Now I know this is a promo from the shop tournament kits, so they're kind of hard to come by, but I'm very grateful that I have 4 copies because of how effective this card is. It has Evolve, and its Evolve is only costing 3, which means you can Evolve and then get this auto that triggers on the Evolve as early as turn 3, and the Evolve is being able to KO any battle card in your opponent's battle area, which is great. It's essentially the same ability as that 4-drop blue Beerus, but you can play it a turn earlier. And it has Double Strike, so right away, as early as turn 3, you can throw this down on top of your Dawn of the Rampage to snipe a block or an essential early game card from your opponent and start dealing big damage. Following that in the core, I run 4 copies of Rampaging Lifeform Bio Broly. He evolves at 4 and has Double Strike, and when a card evolves into this card, your opponent takes 2 cards from their hand and places them in the drop area. So with the first Broly attacking their board, this one starts attacking their hand, both things you want to do in this deck, both things Broly Leader does, and now you're throwing in battle cards in this evolution core to supplement that victory. Very strong card. I've had quite a few games where I was able to get the turn 3 evolve with the promo Broly, and then immediately the next turn get the Bio Broly, and it's really satisfying to pull off because you gain such an advantage early on. And the last card in this evolution core, I run 4 copies of Broly the Rampaging Horror. Costs 6 to play, he evolves at 5, he also has Double Strike like the others in this core, and when you play this card, you can choose 2 cards from your opponent's hand at random and place them in the drop area. Couple things. One, you don't have to evolve to get that auto, which is really great if your evolution core gets sacked by a card effect or a KO because they know what you're doing. And second, 30,000 power is a really beefy battle card. When you get this guy on the field, it is going to take a lot for your opponent to get rid of him or to defend from an attack from him, so it's very reliable double strike damage. It's a great way to finish off your opponent, and in conjunction with all the other effects you have in green, you can seal the game with this card. And now that we finish up the Broly core, we can transition to the final section of this deck list, the green cards. And first, at 4 copies, I run Full Power Energy. Full power energy functions as Green's counterattack negate that you can throw down when your opponent attacks and chooses its target. You can just stop the attack immediately, and then in addition to that, you can choose a battle card with an energy cost of 1 or less and KO it. Now, admittedly, blue and red's 1-drop negates are superior because of the utility they have throughout the game, versus full power energy kind of drops off in the later turns because your opponent might not have a battle card with 1 or less in the area, but it has its uses, like disrupting other evolution chains in other decks / colors, or especially in red, you can knock out Saiyan combos with this card very easily, so it has a place. Next is 4 copies of Human Shield Krillin. Human Shield Krillin is Green's 1-cost blocker, so you can change the target of an attack to this card by switching it in rest mode and activating that keyword. It comes in clutch late game, because most of the time early game you want to take damage, you can awaken early, and it's really helpful against crit decks, so they're not getting any value out of that crit keyword, especially in the blue Vegeta matchup. Admittedly, most of the time I use it for combos, but it's still valuable to include in the deck because you never know when you're going to need a blocker, and when you don't run them, you regret it most of the time. Moving on, I run 3 copies of Son Goten Family of Justice. This card is very popular in the community right now because of its combo ability. During your turn, if you use it in a combo, you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 3 or less and KO it. And as of right now, all combos are colorless, so you can take this card, splash it in any deck, keep it in your hand, and then just wait for the opportune time to pay the 1 energy and get some board clear. I run it at 3 copies just because I feel that Broly does enough board clear on his own, especially with cards like Furious the Vegeta, which I also include. Combined with the fact that you only get the board destruction on combo on your turn, not your opponent's turn, limits its effectiveness, I find. Though I don't feel it warrants 4 copies, but I do have a 4th in my sideboard for matchups that I find the board presence is really overwhelming. Alongside Goten, we have his best friend, Trunks, 4 copies of Trunks Protector of Children. Now, every color in this game has a card like this. It's a 0 combo for 0 cost. When you combo with it, if your leader card is X color and your life is 4 less, you draw a card, and this card's combo gains 10,000. This is Green's version. It's absolutely amazing because when you use it on offense or defense, it's a gigantic boost, and it replaces itself in your hand, allowing you to continue your combo. Absolutely stellar, 4 of in every deck. Another stellar card I run 4 copies of is Energy Power Gotenks. Now, Energy Power Gotenks functions as an extension of the Broly leader's auto, because when this card attacks a leader, the opponent drops a card from their hand. So the 2 of them together, their hand is going to be all sorts of jacked up. Combined with the fact that it's a 15,000 power, means that this card can still deal chip damage late game, in addition to keeping hand disruption going, just like Broly himself. Absolutely great. And finally, to wrap up this deck list, I run 3 copies of Furious Vegeta. Now, this card is amazing for 2 reasons. Number 1, more board clear. More board clear is always good, especially of this variety where the board clear is unconditional on cost, or it being in rest mode. You just sacrifice a life, pick a card, get rid of it, don't worry about it. The second reason is actually kind of a sneaky one. Furious Vegeta helps us awaken faster. So against decks that aren't being very aggressive or don't want you to awaken because they want to build up a kill turn or they're bored first, Furious Vegeta lets you awaken yourself to get to your legendary Super Saiyan form and then just start cleaning house. It's a great card. I don't run 4 copies just because of deck space and the fact that it still costs 1 energy to combo, but I find 3 is the perfect number for what this deck wants to do. So thank you all very much for taking the time to watch my Green Broly 1.0 Dragon Ball Super list. If you liked the video, if you liked the deck list, hit the thumbs up. I'll leave a text copy of the deck list in the video description below. If you thought the video or the deck was crap, hit the thumbs down. I won't be offended. Just please leave a comment. Tell me what I could improve on either front. And if you want to see more of this kind of content in the future, please consider subscribing. That would be great. And more deck lists and local match videos will be coming for this game. And if you want to check out the Panini Dragon Ball Z card game, check out all the other videos on my channel. There's some great content on there. Thank you guys very much again for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.